Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Enrico here from Avanscoperta with the great Gojko Adzic.
Hello.
Hello, welcome back, Gojko. It's been a long time since we spoke.
Thank you.
Really glad to have you here today to talk about your new book, Lizard Optimization. So this
Thank you
came
very
out.
much.
Our pleasure. This came out a few weeks ago, if I'm not wrong. Available on Meetup, Amazon, all platforms, I'm sure. So today we are here with Gojko for a nice chat. Let's see what Gojko has to tell us about this new book, and we'll see how this ties into his existing production of books and knowledge. Also, Gojko is the author of Impact Mapping Specification by Example. We did many workshops together. We are hoping to do some more in the future, of course. I'm going to drop some links as we go by in this live streaming. Please feel free to drop your comments, questions for Gojko in the chat below. We are live on YouTube and LinkedIn. And if you already read Lizard Optimization, we want to know what you think about it. So, Gojko, what are we talking about? What is it, Lizard Optimization, other than the title of your last book?
It's an interesting way of unlocking growth for products. It's based on my experience growing a product where in a space of about 12 months, it grew 500 times in terms of kind of audience reach and usage. And it did that by doing something that I think is a bit counterintuitive, but also something that, as I was speaking to other people from the product community, everybody seems to be doing, but people pretend they're not doing it. And I wanted to kind of write about it, to systematize it so that we can spot these situations and work with them better. Lizard optimization in this case is effectively looking at how people are abusing our products, or looking at how people are misusing them or using them in ways we didn't expect, and then figuring out what they actually wanted to achieve with that, and then understanding if we wanted to support that or not. And in a sense, it's kind of effectively trying to use lucky accidents as a way of evolving the product, but making it more systematic in a sense. You know, lucky accidents happen to everybody, but we need to recognize that they happened, and we need to figure out what to do and when to benefit from that, when not. One story I very much like, it's not from my product, but it's a story I read in Jessica Livingstone's book, Founders at Work, is where in the late 90s, there were kind of these super smart people who developed cryptographic algorithms that can run very, very efficiently. So when you have something that runs very efficiently, you can run it on low power devices, and mobile devices were emerging then. So they thought, well, let's run this on mobile devices. And now it's really a solution in search of a problem. And what do we do when we have a cryptographic algorithm that can run on a mobile device? Well, you know, that's used for security. Security is important for money transfer. So they came up with the idea of basically installing these mobile applications on pilot devices where you can bank them together and money goes from one device to another. And this is incredible. And in late 90s, web was just emerging. So as a way of kind of promoting this to people, they created a simple web page where you can try out some things. It was a demo. It was not sexy. It was just like a proof of concept. But then the idea was people will try it out on the web and then download the mobile application. And what ended up happening is people were using the website without really downloading the mobile application. So they were benefiting from this money transfer thing on the web without increasing the KPIs that product managers wanted to increase. And the product managers fought against this. They, you know, went out to internet forums where people were using this for money transfer and insisted that people stop doing it, insisted that people stop using the company name and things like that. And then at some point, somebody added up the numbers, and the website had 1.5 million active users. The mobile app had 12,000 active users. And then they realized, well, you know, the product is the website, not the mobile app. So they stopped kind of developing the mobile app. And today we know this company is PayPal, which is, you know, one of the biggest payment processors in the world. yes, they have a mobile app. No Palm Pilot no longer exists, and this whole gimmick of banging mobile kind of devices together to transfer money is pointless. But they were able to benefit from this lucky accident of how people were misusing their system. And lizard optimization is my attempt to show people that these things do happen, and you shouldn't fight them. You shouldn't kind of like these people did at PayPal, try to struggle and forbid people from using the website in this way, and kind of try to focus on getting the mobile app downloads, because the mobile app downloads are not that important. The problem is kind of money transfer, and you're solving the problem for money transfer in a successful way. And it doesn't matter that people are using it in a way you didn't expect, but kind of if we can learn from that, we can build more successful products. And that's kind of the idea with lizard optimization.
Thanks, Gojko. You already touched on many points, be it like the surprise of what people are doing with your product that they shouldn't have been doing, right? That was not the intended case. And all of this is totally based on experience. So again, the history of PayPal, of course, speaks by itself, but we'll see this in a second, as well as when you found out kind of thing about this, which is your application. So why is it useful, and why is it useful to recognize it, and what's the the next step after you understand what's happening?
It's useful because it can help you deliver more value to existing users. It can help you understand what your users actually want, and it can help unlock growth. If somebody's misusing or using your product in a way you didn't expect, most of the acquisition work for that user is already done. Most of the difficult stuff is already done. That user knows about you, they're using your product, they're downloaded your app, or they're on your website. So the most difficult part of getting that user is done, but something is preventing them from fulfilling their goals or from doing it kind of in an easy way. And modifying the product to assist with that is going to kind of not just help that user, but ideally help a whole class of new users or existing users get value sooner, better, easier. And by doing that, you can create a better product. And lizard optimization helped one of my products, as I said, grow 500 times in a year by actually doing that, by looking at what are the weird, unusual cases that people are doing, then learning from that, and not just fixing that specific weird use case, but improving the product in a way that helps a whole category of new users get value. And that's why it's important, I think.
Awesome. And yeah, again, it's also a matter of understanding what are the, which I guess comes with experience probably, or you'll tell us in a second, or whether it's, that one weird usage as opposed to people consistently trying to doing something different, right?
Absolutely. And for example, when one of the things that is really useful to understand in this way is to kind of figure out where people are getting in problems, where are people struggling. And in DevOps and cloud deployment and things like that, as an industry, we've developed lots of tooling around understanding when something unexpected happens, but we don't have that for product work yet. We have, if you have an application deployed on 100 virtual machines running in the cloud somewhere, and one of those virtual machines starts running out of memory, it's pretty easy to figure that out now. And if you have 100 users concurrently on your application, or 100,000 users on your application, one of those users keeps kind of ending in trouble. We don't know that. As an industry, it's very difficult to kind of figure that thing out. And we have the tooling in the technical part. So I think there's kind of, a really interesting mix of this. And I started using those observability tools to look at when my users were getting in trouble. And one case was really kind of interesting. For example, people were trying to build audio files with unsupported parameters, where the parameters for the API are in English, and people kept invoking the API with parameters in French and in Russian and in German. That was insane. So why would somebody be trying to do that? That doesn't make any sense. And I started kind of monitoring for this to understand what's going on. And I've realized that there's kind of a whole group of people who translate websites because they don't understand English. My application was in English. And there's two ways of translating a website. One is inside a browser, there's a button to automatically translate you, but there's another one where Google Translate actually creates like a copy of your website in a sense, and translates the files to offer to the device. And what was happening is we had these backend forms and how to generate audio files in JSON configuration files, and they were served from the website, and Google Translate was translating those as well. And instead of just translating the parameter values, it was translating parameter names, and the website was completely broken for people that use it in a translated context. And, is this my bug? I don't know. Is this Google's bug? Probably, but calling Google to complain about that is not going to work. But we have a class of users that are really struggling to do it, and they're not successful. They're failing. So what we did is we tried to figure out how to make this work. So we experimented a bit to see how do we get Google not to translate those parts. And then all of a sudden, we opened up the application to a whole range of new users who don't speak English, who were not able to benefit from the application before at the moment. Most of the visits and most of the money comes from people who visit the Hindi page, the Russian page, Arabic page, and many of them are using it in a translated context. We would not have noticed this through research because I wouldn't have even gotten in touch with these people. I think, that's kind of part of looking for these places where people are getting stuck or they're in trouble and they're getting weird errors because they're doing something weird and unpredicted is really interesting because it complements user research. It helps us spot blind spots with our user research that we didn't know exist. And it's kind of one of those, Donald Rumsfeld quadrants where it's unknown unknowns that are really interesting here. And lizard optimization is a way to systematically uncover these things and benefit from them.
Show the book again for those of you who are just connecting now. That's the latest book by Gojko, Lizard Optimization. Thanks, Gojko, for the overview of this. You already mentioned something about feedback, well, all the time, to be honest. And one of the things that really impressed me in your book is when you said, okay, we don't just need to be looking for validation of our assumptions when doing the product, but rather be ready for surprise and, be ready to accept that some people might be using the product we developed in ways we didn't predict. Not only because that might open, for revenue streams and the likes, but also because that might give them value, and that's what they're actually looking for. So how do we try to embrace this mentality of, not being only looking for validation and be actually ready for this?
I think, is like in the product development community, the whole idea of experimentation has really taken hold last 10 years or so. And I really love Ron Kohavi's work. He recently kind of published a book finally called Trustworthy Online Controlled Experiments. I think everybody should read that, engineers, product people. In the book, he has stats from companies like Microsoft, Google, Slack, Netflix, and he talks about how when you approach everything systematically and try to validate your ideas, the success rate, even for the best companies in the industry, is somewhere between 10 and 30% out of the things we do. So wow. 9 out of 10 times or 7 out of 10 times, people have brilliant ideas that just don't work out. And I think from that perspective, we've learned the importance of like actual product feedback. and using that to drive development. And I think what lizard optimization is kind of trying to add to that is that, as you said, within the product community, it's perfectly logical now to say, I have an idea, I want to see if this idea worked out or not. But we don't have systematic views of looking at what else is there that we have no idea about. And how do we get into kind of, how do we spot if something really unexpected is happening with our products that nobody predicted, but it's happening? Because, you know, web is full of crazy people and people are doing things in unexpected ways. And that's really, I think it's critical for today's product management to start adopting that. I think from the technical perspective, we've learned this, and now it's time that product management starts learning this as well.
Amazing. Good stuff. Really, really interesting. And if you read the book by Gojko, you'll see all of this explained in much more detail with plenty of example, and you know, your writing style is very clear, and also non-technical people like myself can understand that and follow along. So I really suggest you get it. And talking about this, I'll take the opportunity to share a discount code that will be available for about 2 months, if I'm not wrong. This is in the comment. I'm going to share that later on as well. So check it out if you want to read Lizard Optimization with a nice discount. Thanks, Gojko. Thanks for that. Now, of course, as we mentioned, is not the only book you've been doing. You've published a lot in the last years, most notably.
Yeah, this is book number 9.
Wow, book number 9 is a lot. Most notably, impact mapping and specification by example. Also 2 workshops that we did in the past, and as mentioned, we hope to do in the future as well. So what's the relationship? How does this sit in your book production? As we said, book number 9, that's a great achievement.
Well, I think for me, when I wrote impact mapping, that was kind of trying to really formulate the approach where we need to try out lots of different things, and some of those things will work, some of those things are not going to work, and how do we know what's kind of working, what's not working? And I think lizard optimization, again, is complementing that. It's adding to that and trying to kind of figure out what else is there. And I think maybe how this ties in with my previous books is the humans versus computers books is probably kind of the closest to this. Humans versus computers was a bunch of stories I picked up on how people make wrong assumptions when developing IT systems, and how things turn out to be completely different in reality from what we intended to build. And maybe this is the connection where it's actually, you know, when things do turn out differently, do we know about them sooner rather than later before things really explode? And instead of just using it for driving exploratory testing and fixing up the quality of what we already have, can we use these ideas as signals for good product development and good product ideas? And, you know, one example is from Mind Map, where before COVID, before work from home, before all of this kind of stuff that was normal, we had a bug report that our application, that's, by the way, collaborative diagramming application designed for large screens, keyboards, mouses, and things like that. There was a user complaining that the application doesn't work when she runs it on a refrigerator. It's like, well, how do you even run this on a refrigerator? It's intended for computers, not for refrigerators. I mean, what's... And it turns out the user was a busy mother who in the morning wanted to collaborate with her colleagues, and they were doing collaboration through our tool, but she was also preparing breakfast for her kids when she was doing that. And because it's kind of a large screen diagramming app, looking at it on a phone is not really convenient. Having a laptop around in the kitchen where you're splashing milk and you know, all sorts of other things, making orange juice is not necessarily the best idea. So she had this Android refrigerator that had a big screen on it, and she tried to load the application. It just didn't work, of course, because it was never intended for that. But we didn't look at solving it just for her because it's pointless. I mean, how many users do you have who run it on an Android refrigerator? But we started thinking about, okay, maybe there's a class of users who just need to observe, who don't need to participate. Maybe there's a class of users who occasionally just need to kind of do something, and they have a touch device. We never really intended this to be used on touch devices, but they can't fully work on a touch device, but they can participate in certain things. And that led us to completely redesign the toolbar and make the application actually better for everybody. And I think that's the beauty of kind of looking at these unexpected things and bugs in a sense where it's not actually a bug, it's a mismatch between a user and the user abilities or the user situation and the application, and then trying to figure out, can we use that to support our users better? I love Kat Holmes's book Mismatch that talks about these situations where there's a mismatch between the user situation or the user's abilities and the design. And she has this kind of great statement in the book. She says, solve for one, but expand to many. Figuring out these weird edge cases and then fixing up that specific edge case is not economically viable, but using that to kind of improve the design of your app for everybody, that's really where the value is.
Wow, that's awesome. And as mentioned before, it's not like the single case, but the single case opening up the unexpected.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you already mentioned two. One is PayPal, one is this refrigerator one, but I'm curious to know, and at least another case of misusage.
So for me, like one thing that really opened my eyes to this was when we were kind of working on this app that effectively used to be primarily a PowerPoint to video tool. And that's one of my products. That's the one where that inspired the whole thing, where you could create a video by typing in the speaker notes that you want the voiceover to be, and then we use text-to-speech to create a voiceover and create a video. The application evolved through user feedback, so the text-to-speech part was really nice and easy and useful. And then I noticed some people were building videos that were completely blank, and they were paying me for it. And because lots of people use it to create automated videos in the pipeline, I was worried that these videos are being published somewhere and they're blank and people creating them don't even know that. So I got in touch with one of the users and I said, look, I think there's a problem here. I can't figure it out, but can you help me figure it out so we can fix it for you? And then the first thing that came to my mind was that people are creating this in some other tool, not PowerPoint, like OpenOffice or Keynote or something else, and we're not importing the visuals correctly from there. So I asked the user, like, what are you using to create the slides? And said, well, Office 365. I was like, oh, then we really have a problem because video importing is broken. So can you open this PowerPoint you created on Office 365 for you and send me the screenshot? And he did. And the slide was completely white. It was blank. It's like, wait a minute, man, you're paying me money to create blank videos. This doesn't make sense. Why are you doing this? I can't see the logic in it. And he said that basically he didn't need the video, he needed the audio track. And what we've done through user feedback when we iterated on the text-to-speech is we made text-to-speech so much easier than competitors that he was suffering through adding it to PowerPoint, uploading a PowerPoint, downloading a video, and then extracting an audio track, because that was still faster than using text-to-speech with other systems. And I realized this is insane. We're putting obstacles in front of this user. So we created a very simple screen where people could upload a Word document or even just copy-paste some text and use all the tricks we've done for kind of text-to-speech that make it really effective. And then, from tens of minutes, his work shortened to a minute or two.
Wow.
And this created such a big benefit for users like this person that they started getting many, many more audio files, and they started telling their friends. And next month, we had as many audio files created on the platform as we did video files. Then audio files kind of were double the video files in the moment. Although the product started as a video making tool, probably 99% of the tasks now are audio files. And this was growth coming directly from spotting that somebody's doing something weird, trying to engage that person to understand what they actually wanted to do, and then removing obstacles to that. And it unlocked, 100 times growth.
Wow. Awesome. Great success story based on strange usage, but that's what happens, what we all do, right? All right. So, Gojko, we are about to close. Thank you for your time. One last question.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks, Gojko. Like, how does this actually work? So what do you do? How does Lisa?
So lots of monitoring, lots of monitoring and observability to kind of learn how people are misusing your products. That's step number one. Learn how people are misusing your products. Learn about the unexpected ways how people are doing it. Monitoring for errors, monitoring for error screens, monitoring for trends and unexpected types of usage. Then the second one is to kind of figure out of all this noise, how do we get a signal that's kind of zooming in on one behavior change that we can improve to actually make things work better. Then after that, removing obstacles to user success. Like in this case, instead of getting people to create a PowerPoint and delaying success, speed it up and things like that. And then the last step is detecting unintended impacts and figuring out if we created something else that we maybe didn't want to do, or it didn't turn out the way, or in this case, like it turned out to be more than we expected. So then you invest more and add capabilities for importing EPUBs, importing PDFs, and a bunch of other things. And kind of those 4 steps: learn how people are misusing your product, zoom in on one behavior change, remove obstacles to user success, and detect unintended impacts. That's kind of LZRD or Lizard, and that's kind of the core of the process.
Yeah, it's a bit blurred because of my background, which I cannot sort right now, but I just wanted to share that in Gojko's books, there are some really, really, really awesome drawings by, remind me the name, Nikola Korac. Yeah, Nikola Korac, who's been responsible
Amazing
for
illustrator, yeah.
Absolutely, for your latest books, as we were discussing before, so you can get, the full Gojko style. And I was just checking at the page where we have these 4 steps that Gojko mentioned. So all of it is in Gojko's latest book. I'll share the discount code again. So Gojko, last question. What's next? What are you working on now? This one already just came out, so probably it's time to let it rest a bit.
I'm still working on growing NetaKit. I have another kind of product in mind that's still in a bit stealth mode. So maybe next time we can talk about that more. That's kind of at the moment just building products.
Good stuff. Well, Gojko, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. So I'll drop the link down in the comments for Gojko's latest book. You can get it with a nice discount. Thanks, Gojko, and to the next one.
Thanks to all the viewers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.